I don't drink. I never have. So when I tell you what happened that night, just know I was completely sober. It was New Year's Eve, and like every year, my friend Brandon was throwing a huge party. His family was rich, and their house sat deep in the woods, far from town. The only way to get there was a long, dark road surrounded by nothing but trees. No streetlights, no houses, just miles of empty road. I had driven this way before, but something about that night felt different. Maybe it was the cold air or the way the fog curled across the road. Whatever it was, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I laughed it off, turned up the music, and kept driving. I had no idea the nightmare that was waiting for me up ahead. As I drove through the dark, empty road, I noticed something up ahead, a man standing on the side of the road. He wasn't waving, wasn't moving, just standing there. At first, I thought maybe his car had broken down. But as I got closer, I realized something was off. He wasn't dressed for the cold. No jacket, no gloves, just a thin shirt and jeans. His head was slightly tilted, like he was listening for something. My stomach tightened. Every instinct told me not to stop. I slowed down just enough to get a better look. His face was pale, his eyes locked on mine. Then, as my headlights fully lit him up, I saw his mouth move. He was whispering something. That's when I noticed something even worse. His feet weren't touching the ground. My heart slammed in my chest. Without thinking, I hit the gas, speeding past him. But even as I drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still watching me. And then, in my rearview mirror, I saw something that nearly made me crash. When I was 10, my grandparents had a guest room no one was allowed to enter. It wasn't locked, but they always warned us to stay away. "That room isn't for you," my grandmother would say. One night, curiosity got the best of me. I crept down the hall, slowly turning the knob. The door opened with a soft creak. The air inside was ice cold. The room looked normal, a bed, a dresser, a rocking chair by the window. But then, the chair moved. I froze. It wasn't just shifting, it was rocking back and forth, like someone was sitting in it. My breath caught in my throat. That's when I saw a faint outline of a person in the chair. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Then, in the dim light, the figure turned its head toward me. A whisper filled the room. "Close the door." I slammed it shut and ran back to my bed, heart pounding. I never told my grandparents what I saw, but from that night on, I noticed something. That door, the one that was always open during the day every morning, it was shut. When I was 8, my aunt gave me an old porcelain doll. She had glassy blue eyes, curly blonde hair, and a tiny red dress. "She's special," my aunt told me with a smile. But something about the doll felt off. A night, I swore I heard whispers. Faint, like someone talking just outside my door. But every time I checked, the room was empty. I told my mom, but she laughed. "It's just your imagination." One night, I woke up to a soft giggle. My heart pounded as I turned to my nightstand. The doll wasn't there. I sat up, scanning the dark room. That's when I saw her sitting on my desk, facing me. I was sure I had left her on the nightstand. Trembling, I got up, grabbed the doll, and shoved her into my closet. But just as I turned away, I heard it. A whisper. "Don't put me away." I screamed and threw the doll across the room. The next morning, I begged my mom to get rid of it. She did. But that night, as I lay in bed, I heard it again. A soft giggle. Right outside my door. When we moved into our new house, there was one room that was always locked. The landlord warned us, "Don't try to open it." My parents didn't ask questions, but I was too curious. One night, while everyone was asleep, I crept downstairs. I ran my fingers over the cold doorknob. Locked, as always. But then, I noticed something. The key was still in the lock. I hesitated. My gut told me to walk away. But my hands moved on their own, turning the key. The lock clicked. The door creaked open. Inside, the air was thick with dust. The walls were covered in faded pictures of people I didn't recognize. And then I saw a small wooden chair in the center of the room, facing the wall. I stepped closer. My breath caught in my throat. There were deep scratch marks all over the floor, leading away from the chair like someone had been dragged. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind me. The room went pitch black, and then right next to my ear, a whisper, "You shouldn't have come." When Mia found the old toy in her grandmother's attic, she had no idea it would change everything. It was just a simple dusty doll sitting on a shelf, but something about it caught her eye. The doll's eyes seemed too real, almost like they were watching her. "Mom, look at this," Mia called down to her mother. Her mother came up, smiled, and said, "That old thing? It used to be mine when I was your age." But as Mia held the doll, a chill ran down her spine. It felt warm, like it had been in someone's hands just moments ago. That night, after Mia went to bed, she heard strange noises coming from the attic. At first, she thought it was just the house settling, but then came a soft, whispering voice. "Mia," she froze, heart racing. Slowly, she got out of bed and tiptoed up the stairs. The attic was quiet, but when she turned the corner, she saw the doll standing upright in the middle of the room, its eyes locked onto hers. Suddenly, the voice whispered again, louder this time, "Put me back." When Ella's aunt gave her the old mirror, she thought it was just a weird gift. The mirror had a beautiful, fancy frame, but something about it felt off. It looked like it belonged in a museum, not in her bedroom. The moment she hung it on the wall, Ella felt a strange pull. It was like the mirror was watching her, waiting for something. Late that night, as Ella was getting ready for bed, she glanced at the mirror. To her shock, she saw someone standing behind her, but when she turned around, no one was there. She shook her head, thinking it was just her imagination. But as the days went by, things got weirder. Ella would hear whispers at night, and sometimes she swore she saw shadows moving in the mirror when no one was around. One evening, as Ella stood in front of the mirror, the whispers became louder. They were clear now. "Help me," the voice begged. Ella's heart raced. She backed away, but the mirror seemed to draw her in, like it wanted her to stay. Then a cold hand touched her shoulder, and she spun around, but no one was there. It was just another typical day at school for Jake. He sat at his desk, eyes glued to the clock, counting down the minutes until the bell rang. But as the final bell rang, something strange happened. Jake noticed that his friend Alex didn't get up like everyone else. He looked around, but Alex was nowhere to be found. At first, Jake thought maybe Alex had already left, but when he checked his phone, it showed that Alex was still in class a few hours later. Jake checked with the teachers, but no one knew where Alex had gone. No one had seen him leave, and his belongings were still in his desk. The mystery deepened. Jake tried to ignore the odd feeling in his stomach, but as the day wore on, the absence of his friend felt like a hole in the room. Later that night, Jake's phone buzzed with a message from Alex. "Help me, I'm stuck in a place no one can find." Jake's heart raced. Where was Alex? What had happened to him? And why was he reaching out? Now Jake knew he had to find out.